Hey everyone, Stalky Boy here, and once again, we are going to be talking about Evil Dead the game and asking a question a lot of people have talked about. Is Evil Dead the game Survivor or demon-sided? I wanted to give the game a little more time to breathe before going over this topic, and I wanted to ensure that I've gotten a good amount of playtime before tackling the topic. I have around 300 hours within the game, about 80 of those hours going to Demon, and 200 to Survivor. I'm definitely more of a Survivor main, but I have played both sides a good amount, just to give some perspective as to where I'm coming from. About a month ago, I was actually feeling that unless you were playing at the highest level, the game was Demon-sided. But I don't feel this way anymore. After playing a ton of solo queue, I have come to the conclusion that the game is absolutely Survivor-sided. While both sides have strong attributes about them, if survivors apply their strengths, it definitely outweighs the demons. This is, of course, me not referring to exploits that both sides can cause that don't seem to be intended. This would be putting a Necromancer's Flautus in unreachable areas, Kelly's level 25 ability being bugged, stuff like that. Once survivors start getting decent weapons along with level 25 survivors in general, survivors just pump out too much damage for the demon to keep up with. Not to mention Ed was recently buffed, so it's even easier to get better weapons a lot faster.
As soon as a whole bunch of basic units spawn, decent warriors will tear them apart before they get the chance to do anything.
Cars are absolutely insane. Good survivors will ensure that they always have an escape route with one nearby, which allows them to loot on their own and be much more efficient. Also, while we are on the topic of basic units or elite units, basically any sort of unit doing anything, even if they aren't instantly wiped out, they are incredibly passive. I had an actual army with the Necromancer against one man for 10 minutes without me intervening. And when I say army, I mean that in every sense of the word. I had so many units that my PlayStation 5 actually started to slow down a bit. All he did was stand there. Guess how many times they attacked him? 0. That is pathetic. Certain window areas can also be insane, making it really difficult for the demon to catch you, definitely giving flashbacks to old Dead by Daylight looping when windows didn't get blocked. With that being said, there are of course strong things the demon can do as well. Henrietta's basics being able to just say, "You can't dodge now," is very strong. And if you can catch a team before they get their strong stuff, you can very much win the game early. But don't let their early game strength fool you. Once survivors get good weapons and are even a smidge coordinated, basics don't mean anything, which leaves you with elites and the boss units, which actually leaves the warlord on a bit of the weaker side, since I believe the warlord's elites and boss aren't all that great, and in my opinion, cards beat early possession. Some might say that you won't be able to loot while this basic is on your tail, but if you play it smart, you can loot. I like to call it hit-and-run looting sessions. If you know particular hotspots for looting, since cars are faster than demons, you can just go to a spot you know has lots of good items, such as Terminal Station, stop by this location, quickly grab a few items, and jump right back into your car. You simply rinse and repeat until your team has gathered the objective. If the demon leaves you, then you are free to simply loot casually, gather some fantastic gear, and help your team out. This, of course, all depends on if your team is actually good. For those familiar with Dead by Daylight, you might be left scarred at the thought of solo queue, but in my experience, it really isn't all that bad in Evil Dead. Your teammates usually have a really good idea as to how to play and what they should be doing the majority of the time. People are getting really good at Evil Dead. It's making the solo queue experience really fun. On average, within my play sessions, I typically only lose 1 or 2 games out of the 14-ish I usually play. Since the game offers so many ways for teams to communicate, even if you aren't on mic, it's fairly easy to be coordinated with your team as long as everyone wants and understands how to be. You don't need a super sweaty Swift or anything of the sort, you just need 4 good players or even just 2 good players with 2 decent players. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a bad thing for the game. 4 players having good coordination is much more difficult than 1 player having to only rely on himself have good coordination, since he only has to rely on himself. However, that does mean the one individual has a lot more things to keep track of. I can see an argument to be made there. It can also feel super disheartening to know that no matter what you do, if the other team plays perfectly, you can't do anything about it. But demon players might find new ways to fight against these metas. Within a few weeks, I could be singing a completely different tune. Above all else, when making decisions in terms of balancing for this game, there should be one thing put above all else: fun. I don't think the answer to everything should be to nerf it to the ground, because that isn't very fun. It's fun to have strong things within a game. I think it would be much more enjoyable to buff the elites and bosses more and tune down basic possession near the start. Anything that doesn't encourage engagement, I feel should be tuned down a little, since I don't feel it's super fun for either side. Is it super fun to just get into a car and leave the demon entirely? No, it really isn't for either side. Is it fun to just loop windows eternally? Not really. Well, maybe for the survivor it is. It's not very fun to have to chase the flautist down when you can't hear it in the slightest, not giving you any clues as to where it's chilling at. It's not very fun to have the demon on you within the first 30 seconds, and now you're dead. Whether it's balanced or not, whatever isn't fun should go, because at their core, asymmetrical games will never be perfectly balanced. The two sides are playing completely different games. It's not like a shooter or fighting game in which everyone is playing the exact same game. It's okay for games like these to have imbalance, as long as they are fun to play. And for the most part, Evil Dead is very fun to play. There should of course be some tweaks here and there. Certain game-breaking things should be changed. This isn't me saying that we should leave cards to be as strong as they are, but certain situations like hunters being able to do a lot of damage, I think that should be kept. To some degree, I think basic units should be allowed to do a lot of damage as well, possibly toning it down near the start of the game, but later in the game, they get a lot stronger. However, I do think elites and bosses should be stronger than basics because, well, they are elites and bosses. They require more resources, so they should, of course, be bigger and badder. They take more time to, get into the game. And, in the name, them being elites, and you think something with the boss would be pretty effective against survivors. Most of the time, though, the best strategy is to just use a whole bunch of basic units. And I don't think that's very fun. As a survivor, I think it would be a lot of fun to see Evil Ash and have it be a sort of akin to Darth Vader. I should feel like a rebel trooper. I should feel like, oh shoot, I'm in trouble. When I see a boss, I usually think quite the exact opposite. And then, the entire team gangs up on the boss and the boss is dead within the first 20 seconds. I don't think that's extremely super fun, especially for the demon, but even as a survivor, I think it would be really cool to actually have the bosses have more of an intimidating presence. That is it for this video though. Please let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think Evil Dead the game is survivor or demon sided? What changes do you think they should add? Subscribe for more content like this, and please leave a like if you enjoyed. If you'd like to support me more, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You can become a YouTube member with the join button. Each tier has its own benefits. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.